Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all in the room and here in the online room as well. I don't really like online presentations. They really remind me of COVID times, and that's kind of sad. But let's hope this one goes well. So today I will present to you the third paper of my PhD thesis, and that is concerned with the causal impacts in technological startup location. Let's see if my slides change. Okay. So the first thing that I would like you to know, because you are coming from different backgrounds, is this main core idea that goes into regional science and its backbone for my research as well, is that business location impacts future business growth and survival chances. Where you locate will change the way your business will be able to grow, will be able to contact customers and find the final markets. We know that from kind of anecdotal evidence. So if you locate a business in a place that's not really suitable to your way of doing your activities, then you may simply risk to not survive longer than this first initial time. So the literature that backs up this kind of channel is very vast, and we have different channels that are connecting location with the business growth and survival. So from the literature, the things that I'm mostly interested in, and this is just a fraction of all the notions that are in the literature, is, for example, through the market access, right? So if you locate in a good place to ship your products, then it will be easier for you to grow. Then we may have impacts that are connected to local competition. So if you are in a place that really has a lot of different people that are also engaged in a similar way of business, then again, your company is kind of at risk, right? Then we may have some local benefits, and this may come especially in the urban areas where you are just in a place where it's easier for you to find, for example, employees or people that may be interested in your activities. And also with the urban areas, we have something that is called agglomeration effect. So there are this kind of intangible effects that are happening because there are also other businesses nearby. And there are many ways this effect is actually working, but usually in the literature, we have positive and negative effects, again, connected to congestion, or maybe to the fact that you have more companies that are similar to you, so it's easier for you to also have additional employees and so on. When we are considering different business activities, we may think about different flexibilities in the way that they are choosing their location. So we may think about some really concrete examples, for example, mining operations that are very strict in terms of where they can locate. So they are on the very fixed scale of this business location flexibility. On the other hand, if we look on the other side of the spectrum, we may have the e-commerce business that may be just located anywhere in the world, and still it should be fine, especially if it's shipping online products or products that are basically easy to ship. Somewhere on the more flexible side of the spectrum, we have knowledge-intensive businesses which are creating virtual products. And here you may think, for example, about the thing that I'm interested in the most, for example, technological startups. So these are the companies which create online solutions, maybe apps or software, this kind of things. And they can be kind of located anywhere in the world, but still they need to have some employees, right? So we have them on kind of more flexible side of the spectrum, but still the way that this location may influence them will be different. So when we go into the literature and we try to find what are the success factors for technological startups, what are the things that literature knows really well, what it impacts, and so on. We have a lot of literature here on the left-hand side, which is connected to the management for the initial factors like initial capital, access to investor, having proper marketing strategies, having accelerators or venture capital firms that will be helping these companies to boost their potential, right? So to really grow, to have high innovation, and to mitigate their high risk connected to their operation. The problem is that we really lack this kind of literature that is going into the location of technological startups. Even though they are flexible in the choice of their location, still, as here, for example, in this quote, location may be neglected determinant of the firm growth, and this is connected to basically all the businesses. So the thing that I'm mostly interested in this research is the question, how does location impact growth of technological startups? And my focus especially is going into intra-urban locations. Why I'm going intra-urban? Here you have an example of Warsaw, which is my city. This is also the city where I'm conducting my research. Here you can see that we have very different things that are happening in this place. So we have dense living districts from the 80s that are mainly populated areas, but they don't really attract that many businesses except for the ones that are connected with convenience, like small shops and so on. Then we have suburban districts that are further away and they are with lower population density, but again, they are mostly populated areas with less amenities that are connected to high tech. And then we have the CBD area, so central business district location, that stands out as the most unique because it draws a lot of companies, technological companies, multinational corporations as well. Here you have the pictures which are exactly from Warsaw. The skyscrapers that you can see, they are mainly built in the last few years. So there is also a lot of development that is going in this part of the city. So when I'm thinking about central business district connected to technological startups, there are positive and negative sides that I need to consider. So for the central business district location, we might have some positive things. So for example, you have better access to investors because they are already kind of there, right? They are also active in other companies. We may also have better access to qualified employees, again, because of the other companies that are having similar skills as needed, and they are operating in the same part of the city. There is also some literature which suggests that location in the central business district may serve as kind of the prestige or signaling effect. So companies that are locating there are kind of taken as a sign of good quality, because if they can locate in the city center, maybe they have some more opportunities to grow. On the other side, we have also some negative parts, right? So we might have definitely higher competition, again, because of the congestion effects within the central business district. We might have higher office prices. And again, this kind of connection of different businesses may be more negative to the growing business, especially because the way they are interacting with their competition. So my hypothesis here is that central business district will affect the growth in a causal way, right? So there will be some connection. But we don't really know how this will affect each company separately. So this effect will be heterogeneous, meaning that for each company, it may be different depending on what this company is about, right? So what are the individual characteristics? So how do I measure that, right? So going into the methodological section, I was thinking about the proper method that I can capture this effect and answer this hypothesis. And I was going through the traditional methods, let's say, that are connected to econometrics. And these are usually the approaches that are concerned with adding instrumental variables to the model, having difference in different situations, or using propensity score matching, this kind of things. They are very good. But in this particular research, they are not very suitable because their goal is to usually approximate the average treatment effect. So the average mean effect that the CBD will affect the startups in general. This is not really something that we are interested in, especially in terms of this very heterogeneous impact. And also that is not really helpful for the policy making, right? Because if we go to a startup and you say, in average, you should locate here, or we actually don't know, this is not something that helps the actual business owner. So I used a method that is helpful in estimating heterogeneous treatment effect, and that is causal forest. And not only it gives you this ability to calculate the individual effects of the treatment, but it also works very well with complex nonlinear relations, and especially these that are happening in between of the business activity and location. And it also provides interpretable results. So it's part of the explainable artificial intelligence methodological section. So we know actually what is influencing the result, right? So what are the most important features and how they work with the comparison of the effect. So a little bit about causal forest. Causal forest is kind of an extension of random forest for causal effect estimation. So the way the results are taken from this method, they are optimized in a different way. So if you know random forest basically allows you to give prediction or classification results by subsequently dividing the sample into separate categories, separate groups, right? Where the observations are more and more similar to each other, depending on their predictors. And then we are optimizing in random forest on the basis of the Y variable, so the variable that we are predicting. In causal forest, the same thing works, but the optimization criterion is a little bit different. So we are optimizing right now in terms of the treatment effect, right? So within the leaves, so within the final groups of where the observations will be gathered, they should be the most similar in terms of how they react to the treatment, right? This allows us to have this heterogeneous treatment effect prediction. It helps us to say, okay, for this company, depending on this feature, we'll have this kind of effect. In causal forest, we also have something really, really great, which are bootstrapped confidence intervals. So not only we have the treatment effect, but we also know in general where it should land in the 95% confidence. Here is an amazing paper that goes in depth into this method. If you would like to know more, I highly recommend you to read this one, because it also provides really nice in-depth information about how this method works and how it's different from random forest. So what I'm doing, I'm taking technological startups from Warsaw that are founded in 2016. So it's like a sample of companies that are founded in the same year. We have around 450 companies, half of them in the central business district over here and half of them outside. And the central business district location is taken from the local real estate market, right? So I'm just checking how the skyscrapers are assessed, right, based on their quality, like prestige signal. And this is the central business district location. It is just divided by the streets in the city. Data about companies are coming from the Orbis databases and KRS. KRS is National Registry of Business. In Poland, we have limited liability companies, so the companies are kind of similar in structure. This is also the most popular way the businesses are founded in Poland, and we also take out the sole proprietorship, right? So the companies that are kind of artificial. So we have just one person that is working. Why? Because it's usually like the form of omitting the taxation for the IT specialist in Warsaw. So it's not really representing the whole business structure. What we know about these companies, we know their initial conditions, financial, dominating capital, number of investors, etc. And we also have information about the local. So we are taking OpenStreetMap attributes, and we are calculating how each part of the city is different in terms of their public transport, the facilities, and so on, to filter out the effect that may be not connected with central business district, but just with the local livability and attractivity of the area. So when I'm trying to create the model, I need to find out what are the different effects that may be happening within my sample. So here you have directed acyclic graph. So you have the connections in between variables that are happening in my sample. And this is very careful estimation. So if I had any doubt that there may be some effect that there's going in between different variables, I drew it on the plot. This is a typical way to track causal effects taken from Yudia Pearl from his book, The Book of Why, and also other publications, just to make sure that the causal effect that I'm estimating will be unbiased. So what I'm adding here, I'm adding the initial conditions of the company, right? So we have the total assets, number of employees, number of investors, whether they are owned by foreign or national capital. So this is like the first group of variables. We are also checking for the virtual office. In Warsaw, there is a tendency for some businesses just to get the address or like rent the address from another company, which is just offering them address for the registry. And we are tracking this by checking whether the address is repeating across the sample and also cross-verified with the offers for the virtual offices in Warsaw, just to make sure, okay, this is an actual office or this is a virtual one, right? So we're rented, just to make sure that this effect is kind of filtered out if it's happening in the sample. What we also have is the local characteristics of the location. So here you have the things that are connected to public transport, to the available catering facilities, accommodation, shopping, and so on, just to kind of track the local attractivity or livability of the place that I'm not observing directly, right? So there is no immediate index for that. I'm just having those variables kind of assess or estimate this kind of effect. What I'm tracking here, right now you see it a little bit better. We have the treatment of CBD location, right? So whether you are in the CBD or not, right? And then checking how this influences the total assets after 5 years, right? So track the impact of these variables and CBD effect on the startup growth. There are also some other things that I'm drawing here on this plot. So these are unobservable features. So the things that may be connected to the growth, but I'm not observing them directly. So you have management style, lack, other unobservable factors. For example, the local cost of the office. I'm also not directly observing that. And they are over there. I'm taking them, their influences like line by line. And what I'm resulting with are those green lines of the causal effect. And as you can see, there's nothing in the red here, which means that the tool that I was doing this plot in made sure that I have all the causal paths that are unbiased, all the backdoors are closed, right? So there is nothing else that is kind of taking away my effect. So if I will build this model, adding these 10 variables that are in white, then I know that the causal effect of CBD on the growth is unbiased, right? So this is what we are trying to arrive at. So what are the results? The main result is here on this plot. So this is targeting operator characteristics. So you can see how the treatment effect is changing across the sample. What do we have? On the y-axis, we have the treatment effect. So how CBD location equal 1, right? So if you locate in the CBD, will increase or reduce your acid levels after 5 years operation, right? So this is already filtered out by all the other variables that are happening over there, just the CBD location. And then on the x-axis, we have percentiles of the studied population. So how across the sample, right, we have this effect changing. So what do we have? For the 20% of the sample, so 1/5, we have quite large benefits from the CBD location, right? So your assets will increase just for the fact that you are within the CBD area. On the other hand, the dashed lines that you see over there are the confidence intervals. So even though this effect is very positive, it's also with high variation, right? So depending on the local characteristics, probably this heterogeneous effect will change across the sample. For the rest of the companies, the effect is slight and sometimes even reaches the negative, especially in the confidence interval. So we would like to know a little bit more what is happening over there and what are the features that are changing this effect. And for that, I'm going into the variable importance scores. So this is the interpretable characteristics of how different variables that I included in the model are affecting the final outcome. And the most important one was connected to the total effect, to total assets of the company at the very beginning, which makes sense, right? So we are in a good place knowing that our model is kind of confirming the first intuition. So if you have larger assets, you are probably better prepared for the central business district location. What I also highlight here is the virtual office check is not really that important. So the importance of this variable is below 4%. So we kind of connect it to the variable significance in statistics, which is usually like the 5% threshold. This is kind of on the verge of significance, if we can say something like that, right? So this doesn't really matter if you have the actual office or not, right? The other things are more important for deciding whether you will benefit from that or not. Which may kind of suggest that the impact of CBD is not that concrete. It is, again, connected a little bit more with the signaling. The actual directions of the effects can be checked on the plots which are plotting against the treatment effect and the variable that we are tracking. And the most clear relation is happening between these two variables. So the ones that are also the most important for the treatment effect estimation. So here we have total assets. So the larger your company is, the better the effect of CBD location will be. If you are below the 50, this is in thousands of euros, so 50,000 euros, your impact will be rather negative, right? Again, the dispersion is high, but there is a clear linear relation between the treatment effect and total assets. So companies which are larger benefit from central business district location more. However, this impact will diminish as the startup employs more people. So if you are a small company with a lot of assets, you should go to the central business district because this is the place to be, right? So probably it will help you grow, help you find new investors and so on. But if you grow, maybe your cost of the office is growing as well. So central business district is actually causing the treatment, right? So the total assets after 5 years to decrease. Then there are two other variables that are important. So here you have the virtual office check just to, again, confirm this kind of intuition, right? So this is not a very important variable here. We have slight negative effect. So if you are in the virtual office, you are benefiting less. But as you can see, this is not really something that we can cling on top, right? So it's just some slight effect. The same thing goes for the number of investors. So this is, again, not a very clear relation whether number of investors, so number of people that are investing in you, or the companies that are at the beginning of your operation is really connected to the treatment of the central business district. And there may be a question, why I'm adding causal forest, which is something that is like out of the scope. This is a novel method. Why can't I do it with a more traditional ones, right? So for example, like in linear model. So here you have the results of best linear prediction, which tries to fit a linear model to estimate the same treatment effect. And as you can see, the results are highly biased and non-significant. What I mean by that, even in the total assets, right, which we know, and we know that also from our intuition, that this should be really important for the growth and also rather positive, right? Here we have non-significant effect and also the estimate is negative, right? So really, this is not something that we can trust, and this happens for all the other variables as well. Why it may be happening? Because the relations between these variables are non-linear and the effects are highly heterogeneous. So they are changing depending on the initial characteristics of the company in, again, non-linear way. So to summarize, CBD, so Central Business District, has a causal effect on the technological startup growth. This impact is changing with magnitude and direction depending on the individual characteristics of a company. Especially startups that are higher initial assets, so they are bigger, tend to benefit from CBD location more, but this effect is diminishing as they grow in size, so as they employ more people. The location in the virtual office does not really change the way the CBD impacts the company, which kind of suggests that this impact may be not really concrete, but rather connected to signaling, which is a question probably for the next research. So Central Business District impact is also separate from the overall characteristics of location. So even after filtering the local attractivity of our area, still we have this treatment effect that is separated just outside of this sample. And from the methodological section, you can see that causal forest proved to provide us with detailed insights into individual treatment effects of the technological startups. And it works really well with complex nonlinear relation, suppressing all the results that were coming from the linear model, which really couldn't entangle this kind of effect. And insights from this study can be used to derive tailored recommendations, can be replicated for all the other cities as well. And the best thing about them is that they provide individual level insights, right? So you can put in the characteristics of your company and have the prediction whether this effect may be rather positive or not, depending on where you're at. So this is a very nice method for the tailored policy recommendations. And that will be all from my side. Thank you so much for your attention. Yeah, Katya is over there. So maybe I'll just ask if you have some questions, please let me know from the room or from the virtual room as well. I hope it wasn't really boring. I know virtual presentations are kind of tricky to listen to. So thank you very much for bearing with me.